This is a scene of the most united and coordinated effort in building houses in our country. The people at the wall are using shovels to send soil to the top of the wall, and those at the top are compacting and leveling it down with each strike. Everyone's movements are so in sync and rhythmic. This is the nearly lost process of building rammed earth houses. Such mud houses can still be seen in some remote areas of our country. The entire process relies almost entirely on manual labor, with a huge amount of work involved, but rammed earth houses are low cost and made from locally sourced materials, mainly natural materials like soil and gravel. Although they may look a bit rustic, they are particularly comfortable to live in because they are warm in winter and cool in summer. The key is that these naturally built houses have no formaldehyde or chemical pollution. It is said that well-constructed rammed earth houses can last for hundreds of years or even longer. Do you like such homes? Amazing fishing method I've ever seen. I saw a young man pull out a small fishing rod from his bag, and you would never guess that the giant cable reel in front of him was actually his fishing tool for the day. After attaching the bait to the hook, he hung it on a drone, which is the best substitute for a fishing rod. The drone's long-distance casting ability goes without saying, while he acts as a support, holding the reel and letting out the line. What kind of giant fish is he trying to catch with such an exaggerated method? An old man walking by the beach exclaimed how clever it was. After reaching a deep sea area over 100 meters away, the drone dropped the bait. Now, all they had to do was wait for the catch. Soon, within a few minutes, the reel was suddenly yanked by a tremendous force. The young man hurriedly chased after it, rolling and scrambling to grip the fishing line tightly in his hand, but the force was immense. He pulled with all his might, but he ended up back on the sandy beach. Is it the person fishing, or the fish fishing the person? Fortunately, he was strong from years of being single, and he quickly steadied himself again. His sturdy companion rushed over to help. After a fierce struggle, they finally pulled the opponent into shallow waters. From the dorsal fin, it was a shark. An experienced old man was trying to find water in the dry desert, so he took a shovel and started digging vigorously in the cool sand. Sure enough, he was very skilled. As he worked, the sand below became increasingly damp. Eventually, some murky liquid started to bubble up. But the old man didn't stop. He continued to clear away a lot of sand until he dug a large pit. Then he took a water scoop and patiently cleaned the sand at the bottom of the pit. Although the whole process was very tedious, the old man felt all the hard work was worth it for a sip of water. After letting the murky water settle for an hour, clear water finally appeared in the sand pit. Then the old man could finally relax and boil a pot of good tea.
I caught a ghost knife weighing dozens of pounds. Without saying a word, he placed it on the cutting board, then took out a small knife and sliced from the fish's head to its tail, just to make it easier to remove the skin. He then grabbed the skin on the head and pulled it back with force, and the entire skin came off like tape, revealing the tender fish meat inside. But the guy wasn't going to eat or sell this fish. Instead, he used it as bait to catch a bigger fish worth more. He cut off a small piece of the fish meat and casually tossed it into the sea. To his surprise, less than a minute after the bait hit the water, the fishing rod felt a huge pull. The two guys were caught off guard and almost got dragged into the sea by the big fish. Even with all their strength, they couldn't lift the fishing rod. They had no idea how big this monster was. The main angler was turning red in the face and sweating profusely, but he still couldn't pull the big fish out of the water. Reluctantly, they had to switch to a stronger fisherman, but he wasn't a match for the big fish either. Although reeling it in was also very tough, they finally managed to bring the big fish out of the water, and it turned out to be a 300-pound giant grouper. No wonder it was putting up such a fight.
The workers are driving piles into the stones. Have you noticed that the hammers they're using are almost hitting their shoulders? Actually, this isn't an ordinary hammer, it's a specially customized soft mallet. Its handle is made of soft rubber, so the more you swing it, the more power it generates. We all know that the force of an action is mutual. If you use a regular wooden handle to swing a hammer, your wrist and arm might feel intense vibrations, which could even lead to numbness or injury. But the special design of the soft mallet effectively absorbs the impact, minimizing vibrations to the point where you hardly feel them while using it. However, the soft mallet isn't necessarily easier to use than a regular hammer, it requires more skill. Due to the material's elasticity, controlling its force and direction can be tricky, and if you're not careful, you might injure yourself. So, unlike a regular hammer, using a soft mallet requires a certain level of technique. Now, when can you harvest winter honey from naturally raised bees, and how can you get a large quantity of high-quality honey? You just need to consider the following 3 points. First, timing is key. In the southern regions, you can start harvesting winter honey around the east of the 20th of the month, because that's when the honey collected can be considered winter honey. Second, how do you determine if the naturally raised bees have honey? Well, honey is the bee's wealth. The more honey there is, the more guard bees you'll find at the entrance. Third, how do you know if the honey is ready to be harvested? You can simply drive the bees away and check the edge of the comb. If the honey on the second edge of the comb is already capped, that means it's the perfect time to harvest. Did you learn something?